In today's podcast, we're going to talk about crypto. We're going to talk about entrepreneurship, growing in the digital space. I'm here with a really special guest. His name is Robert.
People are going to want to be around people that are not only super disciplined, but then also are actually achieving success and achieving the things that they set out that they were going to do. And so it creates this momentum. You get this little bit of a swag with yourself as you build the confidence. But it starts with, again, the daily habits that you actually deploy. You know, if you're short-minded, or short-sighted, I should say, with your vision of what you want for yourself, you're making decisions based off what you can do today, not what you can do in 3 or 4 years. Opportunity will meet you if you're prepared.
Welcome to another episode here at the Trailblazers Talk podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Ortega, and we are committed to creating content just like this that inspires, motivates, and empowers you as an entrepreneur so you could blaze your own trail to success. And in today's podcast, we're going to talk about crypto. We're going to talk about entrepreneurship, growing in the digital space and overcoming a bunch of challenges and scaling and, a lot of cool stuff. And so I'm here with a really special guest. His name is Robert. I've been connected with him for a couple years now on social media, and it was from a series of mutual friends that got us in this podcast today. So shout out to Ali because he, brought us together to make sure that this happens. And he's a digital entrepreneur. He worked with guys like Frank Kern. He's done a lot of amazing stuff in the digital space. He's done a lot of amazing stuff in the crypto space, and he has a lot of exciting stuff for 2024. So if you're interested in crypto, you're interested in digital marketing, this is the podcast to be on today. So with that being said, Robert, welcome to the show.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me on. Appreciate
likewise. It. Yeah, I'm excited. I feel that this conversation is going to disrupt, in a good way, many people's plans for 2024. And I'm excited to just learn more about you, bro, and just, genuinely build. And like I said prior to filming, I want this to be an organic conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
And I feel like it's going to do really well. So
yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah, 2024 is going to be a really, really big year, man. I'm pumped not only for the stuff that I got going on, but just so much has been changing over the past couple of years, with social, with crypto. I mean, we're going to get into it, but I think a lot of people, when they go into the new year, sometimes they take all that stuff from the prior year and they're like, hey, these are the opportunities that did or didn't work out. I think the new year is just a good clean slate to just dive into what's happening right now. And, we've been prepping for a couple months. So I'm excited, and 2024 is going to be a really, really great year.
Man, I love that. I love the energy, how you talk about the new year, man. Everyone does their goal setting different. For me, I don't really create goals. The reason is if I create goals, there's just an emotional disruption there that if it doesn't happen, it messes me up. It kills my flow. This type of strategy has worked for me, but for you, what works for you to make sure that you are successful going into the new year?
That's a really good question, because I think a lot of people, they'll set the unrealistic target, and I've done it myself early on in my career, where it's hey, I want to make, when I was first starting, it was $10K a month, then $50K a month, then $100K a month. How do I actually do that? But then once you start making money, you understand how that stuff works, and the goal becomes different, and the way that goals are constructed, at least how I do it, is also different. So for example, we've been working on a fund for about 2 years now, and I wanted to have a fund when I was 18, 19 years old. I've always been into finance, and with all the businesses that I've ran, the agencies that I've ran, I've acquired a lot of skill sets in order to understand the team building, understand what things need to be in place. And so the way that I look at goals now is, if my target is, let's say, $100 million of assets under management for a fund, what would need to be true in order for me to actually go do that? Well, one, I need to go first read books on people that have actually done that to see what their mindset is about that goal. So it first starts with getting that visibility to what's actually possible and how you need to set the goal. Then the second thing is, okay, if that is going to be the goal, then how do we actually do that with the current leverage that I have? Whether that be skill sets, whether that be the team, whether that be the investments that I've made into courses that I can go, get a setter placed or something like that, right? What leverage do I currently have with capital, with resources, and with my knowledge and my skill set in order to actually make that goal obtainable? And if it's something that you don't have, then it's something you have to go seek for. So that could be mentorship, could be books, courses, etc. But I always play the game of what would need to be true in order for us to hit the goal. and then I reverse engineer it. So
yeah, so I'm going to pause you right here because I want to say two things. Number one, I said earlier, I don't goal set. I create intentions. And for me, the difference is when people goal set, they don't intentionally learn what they have to do to hit their goal. What you're doing here, what you just like broke down, is you said goal, but you backed it up with all the intentions you're gonna do to make sure you hit that goal. I think that's a really big thing in terms of achieving goals, because most people, even successful people, they're not as intentional and obsessed with what do I need to do, who do I need to learn this from, how do I set myself up for this, and actually do that hard work. Because it's simple to say you're reading books, but you're studying, you're implementing information, you're trying different things from what you're studying, and you have a clear plan of like, okay, if I have this as a goal, then that goal is backed by these steps. And that's what you just laid out. So I wanted to say that to bring to surface, because every entrepreneur watching this podcast, don't just goal set. Like, yeah, goals are good, but write intentions. Back every goal by the intentions on what you have to do to hit that goal. And if you don't know what to do, then read books like Robert. And I know I interrupted you, but he's about to get back into this and give you a blueprint to make sure you achieve stuff. Because 2023 was a really good year, but most of you, and myself included, it could have been a better year if we had the right intentions to hit these goals. So yeah, I know I interrupted you, man, but let's get back into it.
No, absolutely. So yeah, reverse engineering the goal with targets. And I think as you run a business, you tend to build this habit of understanding, number one, hey, if this is to be true, what does the team need? What do I need? What support systems do we need to actually accomplish the goal? And so when you take that type of approach, the goal becomes a leading indicator, the goal becomes a lagging indicator, and you have to focus on all the micro things that are the leading indicators that the goal will get hit if you focus on these things. And so I think if you take that approach with your fitness, with your business, with audacious goals that you don't even know if you can accomplish in a material world yet, if you take that same mindset, it becomes like clockwork.
Yeah,
and then there's a frequency that you start to develop, because people are going to want to be around people that are not only super disciplined, but then also are actually achieving success and achieving the things that they set out that they were going to do. And so it creates this momentum. You get this little bit of a swag with yourself as you build the confidence. But it starts with, again, the daily habits that you actually deploy. So the way that I look at it specifically for 2024 is we have a very, very unique set of events that are occurring right now, specifically in the crypto space. We have all these institutions, BlackRock, Fidelity, and a bunch of other companies filing for a spot ETF. And the reason why that is such a big deal is because if you've ever invested in Bitcoin in the past or purchased a crypto, you know how complicated that could be if you first start out and try and do it. And so there's two sides of that. One, there's the complexity that people typically freak out if they can't actually buy the Bitcoin or store it properly, etc. Number two is understanding the accounts that need to be set up and how easy is it to actually move money around in that ecosystem. People can also get freaked out by that as well. And so with these ETFs that are coming out, it's basically a dam that's being broken to have a bunch of money come into the system for BlackRock to buy a bunch of Bitcoin, Fidelity to buy a bunch of Bitcoin, and for people to be able to buy it in their own stock accounts and their brokerage accounts that they've trusted for years. Now, I'm a Bitcoin maniac, so I want to own my crypto. I want to own my keys. But for my grandma, my grandpa, they're not going to do that. So we're at this unique opportunity where it hasn't happened in our lifetimes as young entrepreneurs, but it's happened prior with gold, where they brought that as an ETF after they mined a bunch of it. And so right now I feel it's like the best time to actually get involved because of the momentum and the pendulum that's happening with people actually being able to buy Bitcoin easily and have exposure to it in their portfolio. And there's prior runs that have happened in crypto. Don't get me wrong. People have made money, lost money. I've done the same. But this one's going to be different. And so that's the new mindset that you should have going into 2024 overall, is that, hey, this is a new year. This is a new set of obstacles, challenges, and goals or intentions that I need to set. But the big boys are doing that too, specifically around this asset class. And so don't watch what they say, watch what they do.
Man, that's good. I think it's really like important to hear from someone like you, What do you feel like is needed? Let's just, because I'm not a crypto person. I told you I've lost in crypto.
Sure.
And I'm not sure if people that are listening to this are crypto people too. They equally could be. But like, let me just ask a really dumb question.
Mm-hmm.
The dumb question is, if I never got into crypto, what's the best way to get into crypto?
The best way to get into crypto is to go on Coinbase, buy $5 worth of it, and then send it to your mom, brother, dad, etc., and have them send it back to you. That's the easiest thing to do.
Okay, so $5 on Coinbase,
Mm-hmm.
and then obviously my mom would have to have an account on Coinbase, right?
She can have a Bitcoin wallet, but if we want to keep it simple,
Okay.
both you guys can open up a Coinbase account.
Yeah.
You buy $5, send it to her, and have her send that money back to you.
And what does that do?
One, you go through and you actually buy the digital asset,
Okay.
which is a whole process in and of itself. But if you buy it and then you actually move it and send it to someone, you then start to get the aha moment where that was it. That was needed to go ahead and send money. I didn't have to go through a bank. I didn't have to send a wire. I didn't have to do that for, maybe a small amount is an easy way to move money through Zelle and stuff like that. But think about it on a bigger scale. I tried sending wires for 50 grand, 100 grand, etc. It takes 3 or 4 days to clear. Sometimes you have to go in and do a signature or something online. And so that disruption of being able to move money between me and you without anyone's permission, and it takes maybe 30 minutes, that's a bigger deal than people realize. And so when you really understand it, I feel like people have to be tactical and tangible with it for them to get it. If you just buy it, hold it, and you don't know what's going on, that's one way to get exposure to crypto, but you don't understand the power of what Bitcoin represents. And so I think that's the first step that people should do is see how it works and how it moves and what the core concept in action looks like.
Got it. Okay, so everyone listening on this, buy Bitcoin for $5 and send it to somebody. And so when you say send it to somebody, you're saying send it to somebody in terms of crypto or cashing it out and sending it? Like, what is that? Again, this is I don't know anything about this, so I'm asking really dumb questions.
For sure. So I would buy $5 of Bitcoin and send that $5 in Bitcoin to your Bitcoin wallet.
Got it.
That way you can receive Bitcoin. You go through that process of understanding how to receive it.
So let's just say someone earned $1,000 gain in Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
Is it simple to turn into American dollars and cash that out?
Yeah, very simple. So just like how you would buy a stock, Apple stock, for example, it goes up 10% and you sold it on the exchange, you would have a 10% capital gain.
Yeah.
You can convert that to cash. Now, to get it into your bank account may take 2 or 3 days, but that's with every exchange that's centralized, right? So same thing that works with stocks, works in crypto if you work with centralized exchanges. The only difference that people really don't wrap their head around, which took me a little bit while to do it as well, is the actual asset can move outside of the exchange. So for example, like Apple, you're not sending that to someone. You can't send Apple stock to someone just directly, right? You would buy it for them in their account or give them the money to go buy it. Whereas I could actually transfer that stock directly without anyone's permission. And actually, I can pay for goods. I can pay for services. I can pay for that
things
stuff
in Bitcoin without transferring it to like American.
Exactly. I can do that. That's the power of it. But
do you do that or
I do not buy things in Bitcoin because I know where it's going price wise. It's a storehold of wealth.
So you're not spending your Bitcoin; you're holding it.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Do you recommend people do the same or?
Once they go through their first way of moving it, I think then they can understand what it is and how it's used.
Okay.
And then they can go put tens of thousands or a couple $100,000 in it itself.
Yeah.
But they first have to understand the fundamentals.
Yeah. Okay.
So
here's another dumb question. Do you feel like there's a benefit to buying things? I know you don't buy things in Bitcoin, but do you feel like there's a benefit to buying things in Bitcoin versus like credit or American dollars or
it's an interesting question.
Currency?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. It depends on what the item actually is. Crypto can be used to facilitate a transaction, and typically in bigger quantities, if it's more of a direct sale, then yes, you can use crypto as the payment rails. The thing with credit cards is that you can get a bunch of points from it. You get the buyer protection, and you're using other people's money in case that transaction goes wrong. So using credit, that's what I use for every single one of my transactions. That gives you so much more power and allow you to materialize a business reality faster, allows you to buy ads, allows you to buy that stuff because that was the intent of the product. was to have money go out and then make more money than what you spent. So that way you can just be a continuous cycle of money in, money out, etc.
Right.
With Bitcoin, it's a finite material. So as soon as I send it to you, there's no chargeback system. There's no one I can go call. That's why I'm saying use your mom or your grandma or whatever, that you can send it back and forth just to see how it works. But it's a good use for people that want a final transaction without any chargeback ability.
So you use crypto as more like an investment than like day-to-day currency exchange.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I think it should be that way because Bitcoin is taxed as property in the United States.
So again, this is really dumb questions because I don't know better, but there's a lot of like talk in like the e-com world where it's like customers are buying in Bitcoin and offer Bitcoin, offer to take Bitcoin on your e-com site. So if you're telling me like don't use Bitcoin to buy stuff, like what's this hype on the e-com world saying, hey, offer Bitcoin, offer crypto merchant accounts and stuff like that? Like, do you feel like there's a benefit to that, or are you against that?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in meeting the customer where they're at in the buying cycle. So if they want to use crypto, be set up for crypto.
Yeah.
You get to hold that crypto. You get to own that crypto. Awesome. But I'm a big firm believer because I came from a marketing background of just meeting people where they're at and making that as frictionless as possible. So I don't personally spend my Bitcoin.
Okay.
But other people can, but that's their decision.
Got it.
And that could be because they were gifted it and they don't want it. So they're just saying, hey, I'll buy this $50 t-shirt or whatever and just get rid of my Bitcoin. That's all I got. But if you have a sizable position in Bitcoin, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, you think about it differently.
That makes sense because it's more of an investment than like your credit card or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got it. That's really helpful, man, because like I feel like a lot of people have these questions like, should I buy with my Bitcoin? Should I offer Bitcoin on my website? So what you're saying, just to kind of like recap this, is from an investment, you look at Bitcoin from an investment perspective, not a daily spend perspective. But you're not against like e-com sites offering Bitcoin because you're like, hey, if these customers want to buy a Bitcoin, let them buy with Bitcoin. Like, have you ever, because I know you were also in e-com, like, have you ever done that? Like, is there a gain to having like people to buy your stuff on Bitcoin versus the traditional routes?
Yeah, so at the time there really wasn't. It was like 2017, 2018, so still fairly new. And I don't necessarily think that we'll see a huge payments infrastructure and ecosystem take off to where people are buying things in Bitcoin on e-commerce sites to the scale that we use credit cards.
Got it.
Because we do know that there's people that drop ship. We do know that there's people that don't even send out the products. They just straight out scam people, especially if they're running Facebook and Instagram ads on, e-commerce stuff. So I don't think the consumer has enough infrastructure
Got it.
for them to feel comfortable yet, even if the payment gateway can be made, meaning the transaction can happen, but are you going to transact
There's just not enough trust for that, right?
I don't think that the crypto market has matured enough and has reached a level of adoption to the consumer base yet, because largely Bitcoin has just been really made with investments from retail until recent, with all these institutions getting involved. And everything has happened to the crypto market. There's been great actors, there's been bad actors, there's been scam people. People have used it for the Silk Road and used stuff to purchase back in the day. But now it's in a different stage. Just like, the baby grows up and goes through adolescence and now, is more mature. That's what's happening right now in the asset class.
Got it. That makes sense. So where do you feel like, because I know like crypto, like outside of Bitcoin, crypto generally speaking has evolved a lot since the pandemic. I mean, we're talking about NFTs and like a lot of different plays with crypto. Like, where do you think like crypto is at now? Like, do you feel like NFTs are relevant? Are they worth looking into? Like, do you feel like there's any evolution from those days going into 2024?
Yeah, so I'm not really a big believer in NFTs the way that they were marketed back in the day.
Okay.
Because
it's funny you say back in the day, it's like only 2 years ago.
Yeah, crypto moves so fast. I mean,
crazy.
It's like 5 years in another industry is like 1 year in marketing. And I use the same parallel where it's like a month is like a year in crypto. A week is like a month and a day is like a week. Like it just moves so fast.
Yeah.
So the way that I look at NFTs, and I know a lot of people that have had projects take off and are successful, sure. But at the end of the day, it was just a way to raise capital for a business. And a lot of the projects that are in development now for those NFTs or, actually sold out their collections, there's a business model that has to be behind it because now they have the capital, means that they have to budget, they have to forecast things. What is their product? New sales of NFTs. So it's a business, and that's just the quote unquote product of registry. And I think NFTs have gotten now to a point where it's more of a marketing gimmick rather than some breakthrough technology of, hey, this can be on the blockchain.
Yeah.
Because anything can be on the blockchain. A health record could be on the blockchain. No one gets super excited about that, right? It was just that a lot of artists came through. It was a great way for artists to sell their art or their album work or whatever the case is. I think there's a lot more maturing in that market as well, but Bitcoin's been around for 10 years, and we're just now starting to get institutional adoption. So these things take a lot longer than people think. And yes, there are these very, very quick pump and dumps and stuff like that. I don't partake in those because it stresses me out. You got to be in and out at the right time.
Yeah.
And I've played with it to understand it. But again, back to the original concept. First, understand what you're investing in and see if it's the game that you want to play. It's like I bought NFTs back in the cycle on Solana. I had a snail or whatever. I bought it. It went up by 100%. I sold it. So I bought two of them. I doubled my money on one. And then the next day, the whole exchange went down and just totally rug pulled.
Wow.
So I went out with zero, but I was like, there's too much going on here.
Yeah.
And the people's greed behind the scenes is what drives these kind of rug pulls.
Man, that's crazy. Like I personally, I don't think I'll ever become like an enthusiast of crypto just because like I feel like I'll have a heart attack. Like it just sounds too extreme, man. Like it I think it's like to do well in crypto, you have to have like the heart for that and like the discipline. I don't think I could. Like I told you my experience with Bitcoin, and that freaked me out. Like I was like, yeah, I'm not looking at crypto again.
Well, you know what's something really interesting about that is I have a lot of buddies of mine in the marketing space.
Okay.
And they say the same thing. Because think about it, our skill set is being able to deploy cash and get a 5 ROAS on it or a 4 ROAS. It's predictable, and we know the variables that control the return.
Yeah.
Ad copy, the creative, the actual links to the site, the product pages. How is that actually converting? And there's statistics between each thing. And our job as marketers, as e-commerce entrepreneurs, et cetera, is to just condense the friction of the purchase, which is all the conversion rates in between, and essentially get the sale.
Yeah.
So when you have a predictable system like that, how I look at it is because my whole thesis is digital cash flow to then create digital wealth. You can play this game for ever. Like that's your skill set. That's the bread and butter. But what are you doing to preserve your buying power? What are you doing on the investment side? And that's the bridge that I try and talk to my friends about, especially in marketing or e-com, because you're hunting and killing every single day with ads. You're hunting and killing every single day by depositing new beliefs into your system, understanding the customer avatars better, and you're going through the cycle over and over and over. And that's your active income. That's your active work. Whether you have an agency or not, that's what it is. So when you get into the investment side, some people like to just have tried and true stuff that is archaic. That could be, stocks, ETFs, mutual funds, etc. They start going down the rabbit hole of gold, but there hasn't really been a lot of movement there. So how they're earning money and how they're storing money, they're two different mindsets and two different beliefs. But it's funny because it's so mechanical the way that marketers look at their ad accounts, their capital, and their money. They don't look at it on a longer term horizon because in e-com, the cash conversion cycle is the same day. High ticket services should be under 30 days, so that way you can continue to pay off your card and continue to go. But I think it's funny because I always have that conversation with my guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's you're right, man. Like in marketing and e-commerce and business in general, like if you scale, it's because you built a system that gives you the peace of mind that it could scale, and there's a lot of KPIs that come with it. But when it comes to crypto, like there's no KPIs. There's no, like, at least from my perspective, there's no predictable system unless I don't know where I'm looking. It just gives me like pure anxiety. Like, damn, man, like you don't know when the market's going to crash. You can't do stuff to predict a higher return or a guaranteed return, or at least any type of return. Like there's nothing someone from an investor perspective could do. Like in real estate, like you could buy a crap property and fix it, and that gives you the KPIs to flip it and get a return. But in crypto, like you buy Bitcoin, and just like me, I had high hopes and then it dipped. like, is there anything real in terms of like predicting a return? Is there something someone could do, or is it just like completely unpredictable?
Well, it's not necessarily unpredictable. Bitcoin is very volatile because it doesn't have a lot of liquidity. When you compare it to markets like Forex, when you
Okay.
compare it to markets like equities or even commodities, these are long-standing markets that have been developed. And even if we look at oil, there's so much money made in oil and being traded in oil every single day, which is why the US dollar is such a big component of that and why we as America, have our own, systems around oil and, monetary controls. But the liquidity not being in the ecosystem is two sides of the same coin. It's either opportunity or people get freaked out by it. It's a growing market, so you have to be able to stomach it. And if someone isn't able to stomach the constant looking at it and stuff like that, easiest peace of mind is to buy some, don't look at it, and just store it away. Like, forget about it.
So it's like you buy it knowing that you lost it already.
Yeah, you should do that with all your investments too. I mean, with real estate, I don't like real estate. It's funny. I have a condo now in Miami, and like 7 things broke within the first like 60 days. And man, I hated people coming in and out of my place to fix, plumbing issues and just stuff like that. And I was like, dude, if I was doing this through a third party with a management company involved, like that would be the only way. If there was so much distance between me and that property, but then it's not even sexy to me. I don't have any true ownership of it. I'm just looking at it as a financial statement. And I get real estate has the tax benefits. That's the only thing I obviously do like about it because you can depreciate it. But I understand digital very, very well. Yeah. And man, managing real estate, it would be such a pain in the ass and so annoying. So I don't like it at all. Now the funny part was actually, on a forum earlier this morning, this guy was saying, Bitcoin is so manipulated, I'm going to stick to real estate. I'm like, dude, real estate is also manipulated. It's manipulated by what? The interest rate from the Fed. So if they raise the interest rates, the mortgages become more expensive, which typically means the home values go down. So if you bought a home property at this price or whatever, and the interest rate went up, that means the value of the property goes down. Now, if you locked in a great mortgage, whatever the case is at a fixed rate, you can have that value be preserved, but you're betting on your location. You're betting on the interest rates and what's actually going there. And if you want to stay at that property, that means that you have to maintain that property the entire time. I like freedom. I want to be able to pick up, go wherever I want in the world. I've been traveling over the past 2 to 3 years. I've gone to some great countries. And you can't do that if you have the responsibilities of physical assets around, like cars or other responsibilities, right? And when you look at the predictability of real estate, it's just like another business. You have to make sure that that person's cash flows are paying off your mortgage. You have to make sure that the renter is actually not only brought in properly, but that they have enough income and that they're smart enough to, not blow up their own housing and stuff, like their payments. So I know a lot of people go into Section 8. That's, again, secure, but it's a volume game. So I like Bitcoin only because, again, it gives me the freedom. It allows me to actually take my wealth with me wherever I want, because real estate, you can get it confiscated. If you piss off the government, boom, done. They take property taxes every single year. What is that? They don't take property taxes under Bitcoin.
But they do tax Bitcoin, though, right? When you
Yeah,
pull out?
just like equities. You could pull out of an Apple position.
But if you don't pull out Bitcoin, you don't get taxed.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. And so the game of accumulating wealth is to purchase. In the old days, it was equities, purchase stocks, purchase these things, and take loans against them to then go buy other assets. They're called pledged asset lines. So you go.
Is that still a thing today?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And what's cool about that, at least with Schwab, because that's who I use, you can take out a pledge asset line for like 4 to 7% of the amount that you took out. So if I have $1 million and I want to take out $100,000, I take a loan. I have a 4 to 7% interest rate on that. It's similar to an insurance policy where you buy it, you can take a loan out against the insurance policy, and they call it the infinite banking thing. Well, you can do that with any asset. You can do that with your real estate. You can collateralize your home. It's called HELOC. You can collateralize your stocks, pledge asset line. You can do this stuff to then go accumulate more assets over time. So the same thing can apply to Bitcoin later, they tried doing it this past cycle, but because there's a lot of volatility, because there are some institutional foundations and fundamentals that are needed, that's why I'm so bullish on it in 2024, because that's finally coming into the market. And so the more that you can accumulate down the road, 3, 5, 6 years from now, you're looking pretty.
Oh, so are you suggesting from a financial professional point of view that people also go into 2024 bullish in the market?
I'm not a financial professional. This isn't financial advice.
A financial advice, guys.
Not
We're just having a
financial advice.
conversation.
However, yeah, you have to have exposure to Bitcoin. Bottom line. The gain is in Bitcoin right now. The gain isn't in Apple. How much farther can Apple go up? It's just going to continue to accumulate companies and buy new things. So that's a really big blue chip stock. It'll probably be around for a long time, but they don't pay out a dividend. Even though they sit on like $150, $200 billion in cash, they're not paying out dividends because everyone wants that stock, so they don't need to, right? Bitcoin doesn't pay a dividend as well, but the growth is so much bigger than what you would with Apple. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, that's helpful, man. This crypto talk is interesting because I haven't really had a conversation like this about crypto, and I was able to ask these questions I've been
Sure.
researching. But it's helpful to know that there's hope in crypto, just because I know people like myself lost, and on the internet people are just talking trash about crypto and all these real estate guys or just financial guys that are not for it. Just last question before we go into a different topic, man, is where do you see crypto playing a role in businesses, if there is a role, going into 2024?
It's a good question. The word crypto is used a lot. It's thrown around. So there's a big difference between Bitcoin and crypto. And then there's also a difference between Bitcoin and crypto and something called CBDC.
CBDC, what is that?
Central bank digital currencies.
Okay.
Our US dollar is already digital. They just printed 40% of it over the past 2-3 years. If you haven't been paying attention, they didn't actually print that money. They just put a figure in the system and said, hey, now we have 40% more. So pretty insane, right? They just issued new debt. But what that means, Bitcoin's going to have its own place. Most people will say it is a store of wealth, and that is a finite asset, just like gold. It's digital gold. The crypto people, those are like the companies, like Apple, Samsung, etc. You're betting on their tech, you're betting on their teams, you're betting on their collaborations, and that kind of stuff. Okay, so there's a market for that. There's also the central bank digital currency side. And so where it will impact businesses is once the governments roll this out fully, we just don't have a public blockchain yet, but it's already been in development for years. Once that's rolled out fully, just like you transact with your credit card, instead of using plastic, it's going to be digital. So that transition is going to be seamless. And so that business owner is going to just adopt a new checkout system. And it's going to be used on a new blockchain.
Do you feel like that's coming this year or next year, or is it?
You know, I don't know when exactly it'll come out because of all the regulatory discrepancies that are out there when it comes to CBDCs or the XRP case and stuff like that. However, the Fed is in no rush to launch it, but they are already working on it. They've already run pilot programs with the banks. They're already doing it. But like I've just developed a software for our algos for crypto, which is a totally different topic. Software takes longer than people expect.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about a monetary system for the entire world to follow and to be on, I would not try and put a launch date on that. I would want to make sure that there's no glitches in the system.
Yeah, that makes sense. So do you feel like we're going to experience that in our generation, or is it like...
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah?
Next 5 to 10 years.
Okay,
five
so it's
to
pretty
10
close.
years. Yeah, that's relatively close. And yeah, so what's interesting about all that is when you look at money, what is money? It's your energy stored into something. Service, product, or it's someone else's energy, right? So if you amass millions of dollars, it's not like someone just gave it to you.
Right.
It was through services, through some sort of labor or some sort of arbitrage, okay? So if that money can get devalued by 40% because of decisions of other people, well, it doesn't mean that you have to work 40% more. It's that you have to either charge more, find better arbitrage opportunities, or actually find an asset that can outpace what's occurring on the inflationary side or what's going on the debasement of currency. So when people go into Bitcoin, the reason why it's a storehold of wealth, and people will phrase it that way, is because it provides better returns than inflation. So you're beating the arbitrage of how much they're printing versus how much you're making. So if you make $100,000 now, it's not going to be that same $100,000 is not going to be the same $100,000 in 10 years from now. It'll probably be $300,000-$400,000.
Right.
We hear it from our grandparents all the time. A nickel bought them fucking 5-course meals everywhere.
Right.
You know, nickel doesn't buy you anything now. So it's the same thing. It's that value of the dollar going down over time. And so again, when we won that war, World War II, we were the new world order. So we were this big power, and we can just issue as much debt as we wanted because no one can challenge us. But now there's other alternatives that are out there that make you question, hey, should we do this system? Should we do the BRICS system, which is the Chinese currency and their whole collaboration that they're doing?
Like I've seen some articles about like Africa like making an agreement with the BRICS and like challenging the American dollar to eliminate it from a lot of African currencies. Like that's interesting to me.
The reason why they are so in favor of that is because think about it. You are a slave to the debt that's put on you. The lender will always have the borrower be their slave. It's a biblical principle. And so if I give you a US dollar, you're inheriting all the debt that dollar represents.
Wow, I didn't even think of it that way.
We have a huge military. No one's going to fuck with us.
Yeah.
If they do fuck with us, they'll find out where this money has really been printed to use and go buy and make this equipment and stuff like that. But that's why we're seeing the tensions between China, Russia, and the U.S. rise, is based off of the value of those currencies. So BRICS is wanting to be a commodity-backed currency. So that way it's saying, hey, just like when you buy stock from Apple, you're buying it based off of the company's cash flows. They're able to generate money, so I'm buying this because I feel like it's going to go up in value or at least keep its worth because Apple's generating so much money. So the same thing with China. If they go buy a bunch of gold, for example, and then issue a dollar or a brick is what they'll call it, then, hey, this represents this activity. Our political views, our value of our commodities, the strength of our military, etc. So it's the same thing with the U.S. dollar and our military. But at the same time, if we go make a bunch of debt or print more money and we give it to other people, other nations, other countries, etc., well, now they have to pay us back in our own currency. So if we look at it from an e-com perspective or a marketing perspective, product, supply, and demand, they just printed more supply, yet the demand is super strong because all the countries that have it need it to facilitate a transaction or else they're going to get hit with military.
Right. Dang.
So that's how that whole system's built, bro.
So with that being said, like, do you feel it's safe or not? I don't want to use the word safe, but do you feel like it's a strategic decision to buy as much crypto as possible because of what's happening in the world currency?
Well, I don't think that you should go like convert all your US dollars and just buy Bitcoin. US dollar still has its advantages.
Yeah.
Just like, other countries, you need to convert to their currency for their thing, right? So I love the U.S. I love, I'm American and I'm a patriot, da-da-da-da. But if Bitcoin played out and continues to play out what it was intended for, the risk reward is super high. So why not? We know where the U.S. dollar is going over time. All currencies do this. So why don't make a bet, see if that goes up, and it's been proved well.
Yeah. Man, this was good. I mean, we're nowhere near done. But I really I've never intended to have like a crypto conversation just because I'm not educated at all on it. But I feel like this was good. I feel like for someone like myself, like there's a lot of nuggets that were dropped in just this little amount of time. So
yeah, for sure, bro.
I'm grateful for that, man. So I want to talk business. I want to talk entrepreneurship. Man, I want to know, like, what was your start in business? Like, what was, like, I don't know if you started in business or like you worked a job and got inspired. What was that moment that led you into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, man. So kind of starts how I grew up, single mother, making $30,000 a year, raised in a suburb of LA. So
you're from Cali?
I'm originally from California.
Okay,
yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
That's
I'm on the
dope.
West Coast. So yeah, I love Tupac. I love gangster rap. I'm a West Coast guy.
I love that.
But yeah, so I grew up. She was making 30 grand per year. She put me in, daycare, after school care. Did a lot of sports growing up. Like she did an amazing job of keeping me busy because the environment that I would go back to just wasn't conducive to growth. Like it was a very ghetto kind of street area, etc. So very thankful for her on that. But I had so much like anger, man. I had so much anger at my situation, so much frustration as my environment because when God puts you on this earth, he gives you a plan, he gives you a vision, he gives you that. And so I think there's nothing more frustrating than when you're, born into something that you have no control over. That's like your complete opposite of what you want. And you innately know it. Like it's not a blame to the parents, it's not a blame to any of that stuff. It could even be the other way around. Someone wants you to do business, but you're an artistic kid, but they keep pushing you into business.
Right.
I think it's the same thing where it's that same frustration felt. And so I always kind of had that because I was the kid that, they looked at me for, as like just the kid that was getting free lunches, the kid that was, kind of just there, right? I was still, a good kid, popular kid in high school because I played on basketball and stuff like that. But that's where I started. That's where I grew up. Once it was about when I was 17, 18 years old, my brother, he actually had stage 4 cancer.
Wow.
And so I was playing basketball varsity at the time, and kind of my whole life shifted. The priorities shifted. I was getting recruited to some colleges and stuff like that to play ball, but ended up taking a step back and said, hey, you know what? I got to do business. So I was always entrepreneurial. Like I was selling shit as a kid, like Yu-Gi-Oh cards and all that kind of stuff.
Hey, man. What was your favorite like Yu-Gi-Oh card, bro?
Dude, Blue Eyes, White
Eyes.
Dragon. Is that what it's called? I forgot now, but Blue Eyes, White Dragon.
Dope,
I got popped in elementary school for that.
Damn.
Basically, like it was a drug deal. It was actually pretty funny. Like I had this whole stash in my room underneath clothes. I thought I was being
funny.
super low key about it. My mom thought they were the devil. So
same here. That's crazy.
Like she didn't want anything to do with it. So she comes in one day. I come back from practice. And she goes, hey, Rob, come to the room. And if she ever calls me like my name, something's up. Something's wrong. So we go into my room and she's like, hey, can you explain this? And it was just a mountain of clothes. Like it was not discreet. Like it was just all my clothes on one pile.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's just my laundry. I gotta get it done. And she's like, uh-huh. And then she like shifts the clothes off.
Damn,
and all my Yu-Gi-Oh
bro.
cards. I had like 600 Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
Damn.
And she's like, what about this? I was like, yeah, those are Yu-Gi-Oh cards. She's like, where'd you get them? And so I ratted. I was like, I've been buying them. I've been flipping money, da-da-da-da-da. And so that whole operation got shut down. So that was how I originally got started in entrepreneurship. But I had like kids selling them for me too. So I was like dealing Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
That's funny.
But so anyways, back to when I was 18 years old, life hit me there. And, I shifted fully into business. I went to a community college at the time rather than the universities I was going to go to because my brother, I wanted to stay local. And I remember about 3 years in, I'd gotten 3 degrees because in California, there's a UC system and a state system. So I transferred and basically I spent an extra year to make sure that I had the requirements for the proper colleges. And I remember, I think I was like 21 at the time. It was 2019. My transcripts never transferred to the universities I was applying to go out from community college. And something hit me in my gut. There was like a cap gun that went off as soon as I got the news that, hey, you ain't going anywhere, dude. And it was like, life starts now.
Wow.
Like fuck everything. Life starts now. What are you going to do about it? And I remember that moment, dude, because I had like this anxiety attack. Like it hit me like a ton of bricks, dude. And I was like, all right, what leverage do I have? So I was doing a bunch of part-time jobs like Postmates, DoorDash, etc. I worked probably like 7 or 8 part-time jobs, was scrounging up money, and was watching only entrepreneur stuff on YouTube. And every single dollar that I was making, I was investing into books. So you have a lot of books here. I probably have like 150 books at my home, got a library, and I've just been so keen on books and learning and just getting new material because evidently whatever I knew was I was in this situation. So I need to know some new shit to be in a different situation.
Right.
I just looked at it very, very logically. And so I invested everything into courses, mentors, and I mean like watching free stuff on YouTube, then buying their $7 book, then buying their $97 program, going through an entire ascension funnel to the point where, at least Grant Cardone for me, I went through all that stuff. I ended up working for him for about 7 or 8 months through that process, and then was able to go start my businesses. And then I invested into a lot of his mentorship and his programs. So I just continued to double down and reinvest over and over and over and over. And I think, especially if you're starting out, you got to gain that momentum first. You can't just make maybe 20, 30 grand in the month and then sit on it and conserve it. If you do that, that's going to be your ceiling. If you want to play bigger, if you want to go bigger, if you want to have the lifestyle that you want to have, if you want to be living in a different location, different address, whatever, you have to stretch your beliefs. You have to continue to get rid of what you currently have to accept new.
That's so good. That's a bar.
And
get rid of what you currently have to accept new. That's also a biblical principle as well.
Yeah, you have to, because it's a lot of, in the beginning, like the emotional stuff that you're working through.
Yeah.
And you have this tie to money, at least I did, because I didn't come from anything. We're like, hey, that is my dollar, or this is what I worked for, etc. But at the end of the day, an economy is just dollars switching hands. That's all it is, to who provides the best value. It's like musical chairs. So the opportunity of someone getting some cash early on through starting a business or whatever, in my opinion, that means that, hey, you chose a life of business. You chose a life of leadership. Don't stop now. You're just getting started. And, for all entrepreneurs that are out there, man, I think if you're rich, if you're a rich kid and you're given everything, it's a poor hand. If you're a poor kid and not shown opportunity, it's a poor hand. But a poor kid given opportunity is an amazing hand dealt. It's a blessing. And so I started out from the bottom. I'm still on my way as I continue to go. But that's how I got started, man. It was a bunch of part-time jobs. And then as soon as I saw that window of opportunity with some cash, invested in myself and took action when I saw some opportunity.
Man, I love that. I wish that was my story of starting up, because like with courses and just access now is game changer. Like I had to start by like implementing and just going after it. There were no courses. There were books, but like they weren't marketed, so you had no idea what books were what. There were no social media profiles. I mean, when I started a business, I had a MySpace page, and like social media, there were no influencers. There was nothing. And, but there were these seminars on the radio station of like, I think T. Harv Eker was doing one in San Diego called The Millionaire Mind. It was just this radio thing, and you're just like, I gotta go to the radio. Like, you're not gonna do that. But I think you had an advantage, man. You had an advantage of courses and books and all this stuff. And equally, everyone listening, you all have an advantage too. Like, investing into information is so important. Like, people try to make fun of the influencer selling the $7 book or the $97 course. Like, people could talk down on that all the time. But for somebody who doesn't know that information, it's life-changing. I mean, it was your ladder that took you from Postmates to now sitting in this podcast, being the entrepreneur you are today, being the crypto investor you are today. It all came from that free YouTube video to that $97 program. So I'm saying all this because there's value in information.
Absolutely.
And there's also value in being the person given the information as well.
Yeah, there's a responsibility on the other side for the person that's actually given the information.
100%.
Because I when I was in college, I mean, none of that stuff really applied to me. But I invested all the other money that I was making solely into these courses. I probably spent now it's about 500 grand worth of courses, mentorships, events, and stuff like that I've done. But I think if you're just starting out, man, it's a decision. Do you want to party with four locos and some shitty ass little club,
spend thousands of dollars on alcohol?
Yeah, or do you want to wait maybe 3-4 years, develop yourself, and then go freaking travel to Europe and have an amazing time, or go travel down to Costa Rica and go freaking on a 7-mile kayaking trip with all the monkeys and the anteaters around and have a good time with you and your boys?
Yeah,
that's the trade-off that you make. And sometimes if you're short-minded or short-sighted, I should say, with your vision of what you want for yourself, you're making the decisions based off what you can do today, not what you can do in 3 or 4 years.
That's good.
And mind you, dude, my life changed right after COVID. I mean, before I had that momentum with working for Grant, et cetera, but COVID was that window of opportunity for digital business to really pop off because everyone needed ads, right? So opportunity will meet you if you're prepared. If you didn't make a lot of money during COVID, if you didn't make a lot of money in 2021, 2022, 2023, there's opportunities that happen every single year, which is why we talked about in the beginning, 2024 is a new year, man. Like, poor people are passing over opportunities repeatedly. You have to be with your eyes open, looking for that opportunity, and as you seek, you will find. So it's a decision of getting rid of friends, getting rid of the bad habits that you have with, different substances or whatever, because the questions that you ask yourself are going to lead to the thoughts that you have, which then lead to the actions that you take, which leads to the habits that you develop, then the results that you have, and your results are your legacy. So if you don't change the first part of the equation and you're doing the same shit over and over and over and over, addicted to substances, drugs, pornography, whatever, and you're not changing that fundamental core belief and core habit, the rest of the things downstream aren't going to amount to anything, bro.
That's a bar. And that's so true. Like, hey, it's cool, man. If you're addicted to these substances, these vices, like, be real and stop overlooking, like, you're not where you're at because you're consuming yourself in these negative activities. Like, a lot of entrepreneurs are overlooking smoking cigarettes, masturbating, drinking. They think, oh, I need another course. I need another mentor. I need partners. It's like, no, you don't need all that. You do need eventually. But what people need to understand are these vices are draining energy. They're draining potential. They're draining just life, man. Like, I say this because I've been somebody who I've been smoking cigarettes since I was 12, like from 12 to like 21. Like, bro, when I'm talking like cigarettes was my cologne, that literally was my life. And when I gave that up, it created so much clarity and created so much drive that I never knew I could have.
Right.
And everyone listening in, like, you may not smoke a cigarette. You may not masturbate, but you may be addicted to something else that you know deep down is holding you back.
Absolutely.
And I feel like as men, it's important to let go of these vices because I feel like men are mentally challenged, not because they lack potential, but because they hold on to these substances that allow them to then lack the potential.
Yes, something that really helped me understand vices more was understanding the psychology behind why someone would make a decision. So they're looking for that action to bridge to the next belief. And we talk about this in marketing all the time, right? They have to believe a sequence of beliefs in order to actually make the purchase or whatever, right? But it's the same thing on ourselves. We've marketed to ourselves that this is the solution. We've sold ourselves that, hey, the cigarette or whatever is the solution because you're getting X result afterwards. And once you actually start building those foundational habits to not include those, you realize that it costs you more to take that $5 pack of cigarettes or whatever than it actually does to not do it. It should cost you more than the thing. That's why if porn's free, it's costing you your soul. There's something bigger behind the scenes that is being taken from you. Nothing is free. Good. Our attention isn't free.
That's good, man.
So when we look at things like that, it starts with where do you want to end up in 5 years from now? The compound effect is real in every which way, shape, or form. I'm not going to get abs tomorrow if I'm fat, but maybe over a year, 2 years, it'll happen if I make the right decisions that lead to that result. There are KPIs, there's macros, there's diets, and things that I need to follow in order to hit that. We do that in sports all the time. In business, it's the same thing. And with courses and investing into yourself, it does two things. One, if you have, and Hermosi says this, if you have 30 links of a chain and you're investing into courses, you're picking up a link in each way. One course may get you 3, one course may get you 7, one course may get you 1, one course may get you 0 because it was the same thing that you already learned prior, but just explained a different way. And you have to complete that entire chain link, and that will directly correlate to how much money that you're making.
That's so good.
If you're not making $10 million or $50 million a year, it's because you just don't have the qualities, the leverage in the team based on that chain yet. So invest in yourself to go get those. It's the same thing over and over and over. So that's how I look at making investment decisions into courses and stuff like that now. But a lot of that stuff also means that you need to be prepared for that moment. You can be extremely intellectual. I was a very smart kid growing up. I was in calculus. I was doing, AP classes, all that kind of stuff. And I was doing sports. I was so intellectual, but I had to build a foundation around my personal habits, my health, even my faith, and just things that I didn't have because, I don't know if we mentioned it earlier, but my father wasn't around when I grew up. He died when I was 10. So all of those aspects of learning what a man needs to do, or whatever the case is, I had to go through that journey, even though I was intellectual and knew all the numbers and was a finance guy, I understood it. So just because you may have all the intellect doesn't mean that you have the character for what the intellect should be able to get you. You have to build both chains at the same time.
That's so good, man. That is a bar. That's a bar. And I feel like we overlook that because we want success now. We want the money now. And like, I feel like a lot of people, they want that Amazon speed. It's like, hey, if I want to build a business, I'm just going to put an e-com site together and success is going to happen. But you need that information. You need that chain links. That's really good. And you said Alex Hormozy?
Yeah, Hormozy brought up the chain itself as
that's
courses
a really good
and coaches.
analogy, man.
Yeah, very well said, very well spoken. So passing it along here because it helped me understand that a bit more.
Shameless plug. Yeah, that's good, man. That gives perspective, man. I feel like when we first spoke on this podcast about goal setting and intentions, I feel that if whoever's listening, if you're starting a new business, pick up a course, join a mastermind. You go to masterminds all the time. Like, what's your take on why you go to masterminds and how they benefit you?
Yeah, there's two sides of masterminds. There's the speakers and what they talk about. I would say that's where 30% of the knowledge is, depending on the mastermind. The 70% of the benefit is the community and the people that you get to connect with there. And price is an indication of that community. So when you first get started, I started going to free networking events, BNI groups, stuff like that. Those are all local business owners and people that are just trying to figure the thing out, maybe doing sub $1 million a year. Okay, so that can be the first, steps, but most people that are in BNI groups, they don't know how to market. They wouldn't be necessarily wasting their time there if that was their only source of lead gen, for example, right? So people at those type of events, they need to learn marketing or hire a kid that knows marketing so that way they don't have to always show up to those things because the world has changed. It's not so much handshaking anymore in person. I mean, during COVID, you couldn't handshake anyone, right?
Facts.
So again, things change and times change. So the way that I look at people going to events and myself going to events, there's going to be ones that are the same stuff over and over and over and over, but that's an indication of the price tag.
So do you feel like the more quality events, it's a higher price ticket to get to them?
I think you go up the ladder. Okay. You have to figure out where you're at first. If you go to a $3,000 event and you get the same information that you would have gotten if maybe you paid $20K for that event as an example, then choose the $3K option because it's the same info. But if you're going to network and you're wanting to be people that paid $20,000 because you have leverage and you can actually make a collaboration happen, it's the same thing, right? If you are going through the event side, because I did probably like 40 different events, like I just kept going and going and going. The mastermind side is the upsell behind an event. So if the event speaks to what you need, go to the event. And if you like the person, trust the person, see how they deliver on their mastermind. Not every great salesman is a great mentor, though. But when you understand the mechanics of how these things work, then you can say, okay, what is this mastermind actually going to deliver for me? And when you go into the $30K, $40K, $50K, $100K, $500,000 masterminds, there's a different perspective. There's a different set of leverage. There's a different set of thinking. And so I don't think that you should just go from 0 to 500K if you can afford it. I think you should go to some of the other ones first. And at least that's just where I started. I can only speak for myself. I had nothing. So that was literally leveling up like a video game. And so that's exactly what I recommend is to get in the room, shake hands with people, build a relationship, build brand along the way. If you're showing it on social media, showcase that you're going to these events. All my stuff's on my Facebook and Instagram and all that kind of stuff of what I was doing back in the day. And you get to get a lot of perspective. That's why I love the agency business models because everyone's paying you to do their lead gen or their content for them, and you can understand the mechanics of their business, and you get free education by working with them. So sometimes if you don't have the money to go do the mastermind, then just go do that. Get a service business and have the leads come to you that you want to actually ask questions about, learn about, et cetera, get paid to do that, and then go into mastermind to either scale that or go into masterminds for different topics like real estate and investing.
Yeah, I like that, man. I like how you broke it down in terms of pricing, because I think a lot of people who are new to this, like, man, even if they could afford it, they just want to go for the highest price tag. But there are masterminds that are free or low price tag with the same information. But for me, like when I look at events, I go, I don't care about learning something. I care about building relationships, because relational capital for me trumps information. Like, you could get a lot more done with the right relationships than trying to learn something you probably have no business doing.
Absolutely. And I love buying my relationships. I'll say that flat out. You pay for that person's attention. Mm-hmm. If it's someone that you know is going to solve your problem or has the few questions that you've been fucking stuck with for X amount of time, and you need that answer, pay that premium. I've gone into and knowing that, hey, there's this one guy, I had to pay him for his mastermind. He had 7 answers that I needed, paid him 80 grand. Just done. What are the answers? He's going to pay attention to me because I just sent him 80 grand. But then I'm also going to value and actually implement what he's telling me, because I gave up something that I already earned and had to receive new, so that I can compound and make the 80 back more. So would you pay 80 grand to go make 3 million? Would you?
I absolutely would.
Right. So that's what happened from that one relational investment that I made. Was able to compound the business within 12 months and make an extra 3 million off the 80K.
Yeah.
And if that's a return on ad spend with ROAS, what is that? That's like
insane.
Right? Same thing.
And people don't look at, like, I think it's important to start looking at relationships the way you look at ads. It's it's the same result. Like, if we do a deal together, let's just, obviously I'm not a crypto expert, but if I invest into your knowledge of crypto and I get a return on that quicker because it's the right information, it's the same thing with the right ad. You find the right ad set, and you spend all this time trying to find that right ad set, and you finally get a return. It's like, do you value your time? Or, like, I think people need to value their time more. If they value their time more, then they'll value relational capital more too.
Absolutely.
Because, again, like, I'm not a crypto expert. I'll go and try to figure out by myself, how long is that going to take? Versus, you know more than I do, and you could condense the time and shrink it to get the same result I'm looking for.
Exactly. That concept I love. What I call it is drafting.
Drafting,
like, you know, when you're in a race and there's a bike behind another bike because he's trying to get that wind speed behind him or whatever. You go behind someone that is already pushing and already has that energy of accomplishing the thing or researching the thing, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you get a draft behind their success and see how they operate. I mean, that's what people go to consultants for. That's what people go to big people like Grant Cardone for. They go to them to see how they think and how they operate and how they even look at money, how they look at expanding in a department, because they've either done it or they're actively doing it or they're in the process of figuring it out, but you're way beneath them. So that's why you want to spend a lot of your time with the people that are in front of you, because I'm just a product of mentors and coaches. That's all it is. With my own little flair and style, sure.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah. That's good, man. I feel like there's a lot of breakthrough in this conversation, from crypto to, like, education and stuff like that. Where are you going, bro? Like, I know you have this, like, algorithm thing you've been talking about, but, like, what is your why that's driving you? Because you've made money, you have really dope relationships, you have some status. Like, what's your why that's driving you so hard to build everything that you're doing?
Job's not finished, man.
Job's not finished. What do you mean by that?
One of my favorite quotes from Kobe, but yeah, dude, job's not done. So for me, my mom, again, how we started, $30K a year, just north of LA. There is a lot of, like I was saying, feelings of anger, frustration, etc. That launches someone to a certain degree. You can have a negative motivation, like in football or basketball. I'm going to beat this guy. He took my spot. Fuck that. I'm going to go get the position. That only gets you so far. So the why has to change over time. So in the beginning, it was just like, hey, I need to prove to myself, I need to get out of this situation. I'm going to do everything. Like, I'll do anything to get out of this situation. When you start at the valley and you go up the mountain a little bit of success, whatever that mountain is for you, when you look back as to where you came from, and two, that rescinding from your potential is the same amount of pain that you had back then, that level of distaste and disgust that at least that I have for me not achieving my potential is the same as for when it first started. So it shifts, and there's a different enemy, if you will. And that's on an emotional charge side. On the potential and like where do I actually see myself going, I've always wanted to do finance. I've always wanted to have my own books on crypto. I actually already have some, but I've always wanted to have my own books published and go speak on stages. Been doing that. And so for me, I know that the vehicles that I have now with helping build a community, giving value to people with crypto education, our software, which you're talking about, the algo, it's something that we've been having for a couple of years and we just released into a market. And then also the fund, that's where I feel that I'm most passionate about, because that's what helped me actually change my life when I first got started back in 2015, 16. So my why, equivocally on the feelings of that are still there. I can still tap into that when needed. It's kind of like a resource bank, right? The second is the crew needs to win. As a leader, it doesn't matter how much money I have, cars, condo, whatever. It doesn't matter at that stage. It does really then become about the people, and you have to select those people. So it could be family, could be your close employees, it could be the close partners that you have in business. And so for me, that's one aspect, is how do I make my team level up and how do I make my team win and invest into them? And then lastly, man, is family. I listen to Tupac all the time. The song that's been ringing in my head the past 48 hours has been a letter to my unborn child. Love that song, dude. And I've always wanted a big family, 4 to 5 kids. I'm not having kids in the next 2 or 3 years or so, but I'm looking forward to it and I'm excited for it because I know the future that I can provide them. And so then they become the sense of motivation and inspiration. And so a lot of the decisions that I'm making now too, a lot of times I think like, hey, if my son, the heir that I wanted to have beneath me to represent me, were to see the decisions that I'm making now, would I want him to make those decisions, number one? Because I can't expect anything from him that I can't expect of myself. And number two, would I even feel right about it if I made this decision? So there's a couple things that you can tap into emotionally. The financial numbers, those are great. I still want to go build an amazing net worth and continue on that track. But I know that comes with the leading indicators of the micro actions that I'm taking, of developing people, recruiting talent, investing into the right places, and putting the energy that I have now in my 20s into the things that will have the max return for my 30s, 40s, so I can have the kid and do what I want to do.
I'll tell you this, man. You have a really good head on your shoulders. I'm assuming you're 24, 25.
25 a turn. When this probably airs, I'll be 26 in January.
You have really good wisdom, man. And I'll tell you this, like I'm turning 29. I mean, we share the same mindset. I've had a really similar mindset at 25, but there's a lot of 20-year-olds who are way behind. And I just want to encourage you, like, you could be 20, 25, 40, 45, whatever. I'll tell you this. The greatest breakthrough I've ever had was when I just made a decision that I want to become wiser. I want to become smarter. I'm done not knowing things I should know and living in wisdom. I think it's so important because a lot of adults, like I look at my parents and like my parents are not, I mean, they're street smart, but they don't know nothing about money. They don't know anything about business or investments or personal development or anything like that. They've been exposed to it. Like my mom tells me all the time, like I remember like my mom's like 60, I think, when she was like 20, 25 or something, 30. She's like, I remember seeing Tony Robbins on the TV and I'm like, why didn't you go to that? Like, she was like, he was in LA. Like my mom grew up in LA and she was like, yeah, Tony Robbins did this seminar in LA right by my house. I'm like, why? In my mind, I'm like, why didn't you go to that? Like a lot of parents who are 50s and 60s, they were exposed to this stuff back in the day, but they thought it was a scam. They're like, it's only for like, you know, I'm brown, right? So like my mom's only for white people. And like, I'm just like, why didn't you go to that? And like, I'm about to be 30 in not next year, 2 years, but like, I'm just like, yo, I'm trying to get exposed to more and more and more wisdom. So when I'm 50 and 60, like I'm not gonna be a 50 and 60-year-old who has no knowledge, who missed the opportunities of what's happening in today's time. Like, do you think like that too, or am I like the only one?
Well, the way that I think about it now, I used to be frustrated.
Okay.
But at the same time, when I got really deep into marketing, my mom, she smokes cigarettes. Back in the day, that was marketed.
It was.
To show
it's like
that,
a lifestyle.
This is sexy.
Yeah.
This is liberating. Women have XYZ quality traits if they do this. And the media controls were so different back then than now.
That's so true.
So we have to deploy empathy and sonder to them, saying, hey, I understand how you guys were indoctrinated. I understand the market messages that came across you and your awareness levels. That in your formidable years that then makes you jaded or hardened to other activities that don't originally align with your paradigm or with how you're programmed. So a Tony Robbins event, for example, we're like, yeah, let's do that.
Right.
Because we go downstream from what they were propagated at.
Right.
We want different.
Right.
Different for them was probably rural America or something in the factories or whatever, right? Like just back in the day, because we're going through that industrial revolution. So that could have been a step up for them. But evolution continues to occur. We have new information. We have access to do things now. And some people, they're just not into technology. So they don't know what, again, crypto is, let alone, Facebook and Instagram and TikTok ads. Like they didn't even think that was a thing and that it was accessible.
Right.
And so those powers and controls, when you start to really look at history through the lens of what leverage and powers did governments have, or did media companies have, did people have, and where did we end up as a result from that, you then have to switch your thinking to how do I either deploy those to make an impact, how do I deploy those to help a subset and a community of people here, or how can I use those mechanisms to my favor and still be a net benefit. That's what Elon does. That's what Bezos does. That's what all these massive billionaires do. And you just saw Jeff Bezos. He bought the Wall Street Journal. That's a media propagation system, right?
That's crazy.
So it's the same thing. But we have the power to do that now to an extent.
Right.
So I think through that lens, and again, I'm a product of two things. I was growing up Christian, so I was always told wisdom would be coming from a divine connection and through the Bible. So, I read that. I'll read Proverbs, Psalms, other books that have a lot of wisdom that are just tried truths. And then there's also the other side of what's tactical. And I've had conversations with both people. I've had conversations with God, like, hey, I need a breakthrough, man.
Right.
Like, freaking deliver something so I can see some momentum here, some light here. And then I've had the tactical stuff where I don't know what buttons to freaking click in the ad platform. Can you just tell me so I could just do this thing? Both things. So I think the respect that you have towards people when understanding how they can come up with those beliefs, one, it makes you open-minded, but two, it allows you to meet them where they're at in their personal development journey, their energy management and development, spiritual development, financial development. Because at the end of the day, all of these things have their own skill sets. Money, you can go basically infinite. Spirituality, you can go infinite and be a monk. There's all these different sections of life and facets of life that if you can see what level that they're at, that means that typically you're above that. So you can help pull them up. And that's the responsibility of someone that has a course community or is a thought leader in the space.
Yeah, I love that. That's a really great way to break it down, man. We both have some dope shoes, by the way. My brain is, I kind of go all over the place. I'm just like, those are some dope Air Maxes, man. Like,
Thanks,
I
dude.
wanted to say that. We're going towards the end of the podcast, but
Sure.
like, you wearing some dope kicks. Like, are you like a Nike type of person? Like, there's a lot of like different styles in entrepreneurship. There's like the don't give a damn style. You just wearing some Wrangler jeans and some like random shoes, but like you got some good style, man. Like, tell me a little bit about like why you chose to wear those Air Maxes.
Yeah, man. So they're comfy, number one. That's kind of like the first thing that I think of.
Yeah.
But it reminds me of when I first got started too, because I used to play basketball.
Okay.
Basketball, I played for 14 years.
We got a
travel
hoop
ball.
right here. I want to see your skills, bro.
Air Jordan, yeah. I'll go ahead and do a windmill. No, but what was really cool about kind of the upbringing that I had was I probably had the coolest way to do it on a budget overall. If I just look at the grand scheme of things, my mom did a great job. And one of the cool things in basketball culture is obviously different shoes, sneakerheads and stuff.
Yeah.
And my buddy, his name was Caleb, he used to win all the freaking one-of-one Foot Locker drop, auctioned off shoes all the time. Like, I don't know how he did it.
Yeah.
But he would always get the sickest shoes. And so he taught me the sneakerhead game a little bit. And then my senior year, we got sponsored by an MLB player who is an alumni of the school with some sick Jordan Cigar 7s, maroon and gold, because that's what the color of our school was. And I always thought that they were just super cool. It reminds me of where I came from when I wear the dope kick thing. I'm not really a streetwear guy though. I really like the kind of no logo, no brand, and I like that style.
Yeah.
Usually I'll wear, trousers, and I'll wear some sort of like knit cashmere and stuff like that, just because it's the way that you perceive yourself and want to be represented. So for certain guests, I'll wear the full suit and I'll go all out there. Others, I'll just have more of an elevated style.
Yeah.
And was learned throughout the way. Like I grew up with freaking and one shorts, baggy shirts.
Yes, and one shorts.
Yeah, dude, I grew up on Walmart stuff, man. So, style has its own levels and echelons and stuff like that. But cool kicks like this, especially Nikes, remind me a little bit about where I came from.
Yeah, that's dope, man. I mean, those Air Maxes are hard. I might pick some up. Those are sick, man. And they're dope because like they're a really good walking shoe. You can wear them wherever, and you can up dress them, down dress them. Like right now, you could literally with your outfit, like you could walk into a business deal and close for $1 million. Like that's what your outfit tells me. But I also see your watch, man. What is that?
So this one's a sentimental piece. I got this my first year that I grew my agency. So this was during COVID. I was growing up in that same apartment. I was still there because I was local for college. And I remember at the time, as soon as COVID hit, I got back from some events. And the first month from COVID went from 0 to $30K per month in recurring revenue.
Was that a gift that you got yourself?
This was a gift that I got myself 7 months later because my partners and I at the time, he was living in a ghetto area than I was from my ghetto area in the same town. It was kind of crazy.
Hey, if you live in a ghetto area, you can make it.
You can make it, man.
You can make it.
So for me, so that was the that was the starting point. We hustle grind for 7-8 months. I have this pedigree of being a marketing specialist because I was managing millions of dollars at the agency prior to me starting my own per month. And so we grew it from 0 to basically 80-something K per month within like 7 months.
Yeah.
And I remember to celebrate, went down to San Diego. This is in the middle of COVID, like September 2020. And we got this wicked penthouse for a freaking steal, bro. Downtown San Diego, 15th and J. There's a ketchup and mustard building because they're red and yellow.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Two big buildings.
Yeah.
Well, I was in the mustard building all the way up on like the
it's right there, but there's a lot of homeless people in that area, right?
They have a well, thanks, dude. No, they have a shelter that they opened up. I think during that time, probably like 3 blocks down.
It's my homie lives in those towers. I forgot what they're called, but I know what you're talking about. Though.
Yeah. So he's like, yeah, dude, there's a bunch of homeless people there. You just lived in. With
it's dope.
Guys.
It's expensive to live there. It ain't cheap.
I'm just kidding, man. But they opened up one a few blocks down the way or whatever. The weather is so perfect, man, out in San Diego. So like. The reason why I know homeless people go to California is because it's just beautiful, man. Like if I was homeless, I'd be in California.
But they purposely built those towers, like that part of downtown. There's like a apartment shelter, like maybe across the street ish.
It's like 3 blocks over.
Yeah, but again, like those towers are probably top 5 in terms of most expensive towers to live in San Diego.
Yeah, they're trying to redo the area. So, anyways, we get this unit. It's like 46 or 48 floors up.
Yeah,
it's overlooking Padres Stadium. It's overlooking all the way Coronado Island, all the way through. No obstructed view because there's no high rises, on that side. And man, I just remember we got that place. It was like a penthouse unit, 3 bedrooms, 3.5 bath or whatever. Usually we'd go for like 15-17 grand a month. We got it for like $4,300.
Damn.
For the like month and a half that we were there. So we're like, cool, let's freaking do it. We do it, man. And like I was saying earlier, man, when someone that didn't come from much gets a completely different environment and the exposure to a different way of looking at the world. And even looking at how money is, and just when they get that different perspective, things change. So I was there. It was our biggest month yet. I had just bought into some more mentorship, like another 10 or 15 grand into mentorship and coaching. And then my partner was like, dude, how about we go spend some money on ourselves? Like we got this unit. I understand we're doing all this business stuff, but let's go shopping. I was like, all right, bet. So we went and got like a bunch of Lululemon and a bunch of this and a bunch of that, like just went and balled out. And so this watch, I got that same exact month. I saw an ad for it or whatever. and I just picked it up, man. I
What
was
watch
like,
is that?
this is a Paul Rich.
That's
It was an
sick,
econ brand.
man.
My buddy actually used to run the ads and everything for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I was like, this is like a more of a sentimental piece for me. So I
Yeah.
like to wear it. I have other watches as well. I got way more expensive watches and
Yeah.
stuff, but I like to wear it because it, again, just reminds me of those emotional imprinted moments that
Yeah.
are the difference or represent a gamble or represent a thing that you bet on yourself or represent a business deal.
Yeah.
You know? And so
I love that, man.
that's what I like to grab watches for.
I love that. I do the same thing. I do the same thing with different things. Like these Jordans just dropped. They're called the Gratitude 11s. And like I bought
awesome.
them because I saw the name Gratitude. I'm like, I'm pretty grateful right now. Let me get like when I buy things, it's off of like emotional celebration.
Yeah.
Like I was told that by a mentor years ago. He's like, Joe, go celebrate. Go gift yourself something that's gonna change the dynamic for you. I didn't think of it like, bro, it's just buying shit. Like, what's that gonna do for you? But it does something internally, knowing that you could reward yourself whenever you please to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like for me, I'm big on entrepreneurship because you do have that freedom to do what you want, when you want, with whoever you want, however you want. I think that freedom is so much, it just creates like a different character. Like some people abuse that freedom, but like if you know how to like live and balance in that freedom, it's a whole different world you're living in.
Yeah, absolutely. All comes down to the decisions that you make with it.
Yeah.
It's a blessing and a curse. For the right people, it's a blessing. For the wrong people, it's a curse, and they're just not ready for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's also a test by God too. If he gives you X amount of millions of bucks, it should continue to compound.
Yeah.
Maybe not at the same rate that you got your first couple millions, because that's such a big percentage gain. The other stuff can take a little bit longer. But I think it's a test that, hey, where you're given these chips, doesn't work, pulls them out. You're not ready.
Big facts.
And so that's just a complete representation of that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I really enjoy this conversation, man.
Me too.
I think we're definitely going to have a part 2 because we're running on time. I know you have another pod to hop out of or hop into from here. So I want to ask the ending question. And the ending question is this. God forbid this happen. So I don't want to, like, I'm not speaking anything to existence. It's just a question. But if your whole existence were to be completely just zapped, like your Instagram, like no,
too soon. No, it's happened a couple of times. We'll have it back up soon.
But like that, like gone, like you can't find you, like, and then everyone doesn't remember you, except a piece of paper, and you write down one line, and this piece of paper is actually framed in the Hall of Heroes for the rest of eternity. Like that's the only thing left of you. What would that paper say?
That's a great question. Oh man. How much room do I have?
I mean, I guess it could be a long piece of paper.
Okay. Well, like maybe a sentence or two.
Yeah.
Trust in God. Never forget that. And then I would say empty out the chamber. Not in like a suicidal way.
Yeah, I was like, I'm a little confused by that.
Empty it out.
Okay.
If all my existence got killed out, the conserving of energy and resources isn't what this test was really given for. It's supposed to multiply, it's supposed to grow, it's supposed to do that. You can only do that by getting rid of things. You can only do that by giving up time to go make a new connection. You can only get new by exchanging out the old. So what I mean, empty out the chamber, get rid of the old shit.
Yeah.
Get rid of the old stuff.
Stop hoarding it.
Yeah, and just don't stop that process. That could be getting rid of your money and investing into the things that you want to invest to. Go get new, boom. Go get new, boom. Could be relationships. Don't just settle. I think a lot of people settle too soon, and so that's what I mean by empty out the chamber and go get new ammo.
That's so good. I think that's the best way to end the podcast, man. That's the bar. Well, I really appreciate this, man, and I know everyone that's tuned in. There's a lot of information here, from crypto to education to your story to a lot of other great stuff we talked about. I just want to encourage you guys, if you're following this podcast, tap in with Robert. Like, this guy, he's not just changing the game in the crypto space, he's changing the game in so many other spaces too. And I always tell people, be in proximity with greatness. When you're around greatness, like, it does something to you. Even if someone's just following you, like, who you follow does equate to everything that happens in your life, because it's things that you see on a constant basis. So I want to encourage everyone, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching or listening to this on wherever, like, tap in with Rob. Like, his links are going to be under the show notes. And just, he also has a podcast, so he has many different shows. There's a lot of content he's giving. Like, he's emptying out his chamber on a constant basis. So I just want to encourage everybody to tap in with you, man, because
Awesome.
it does something to you when you follow the right people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the easiest thing from point A to B that someone starting out can do, is give yourself the reminders of what success looks like.
Yeah.
And we have the ability to program ourselves literally with the phones in our pockets. If your outside environment isn't there, you can live in the digital world for a while until that external world kind of changes.
Yeah, big facts, man. Well, appreciate your time, man.
Yeah,
and
sure,
that is a wrap. And for everyone listening in here, if this is your first time catching our podcast, make sure you subscribe, whether it's on YouTube or Spotify, Apple Podcasts. And if this podcast moved you in any way, share it, like, comment below. Let us know your thoughts. If there's any questions you have for myself or for Rob on here, just comment them below, and we'll be sure to just tap back in and follow up with you. But We'll see you guys on the next episode. There's a lot more coming. This is still the beginning of season 2, so I'm really excited for more guests, and I'm so grateful for everyone who's been with us since day 1, since the first drop of this podcast, and I'm looking forward to the next episode, so we'll catch you guys on the next episode here at the Trailblazers Talk. Boom.
Peace.